It's over. The Calgary Flames had an absolute collapse last night against the Anaheim Ducks, and Flames fans are very upset with some of the coaching decisions. While not mathematically eliminated, the playoff race seems all but over, especially with all competitors getting favorable results. Flames fans are ticked off and want head coach Ryan Huska gone, so are changes coming? Not exactly a video I wanted to be making today, but we have a lot to talk about. Before we get into all that, I want to welcome you to Flames Digest. I'm Mark Griffith. If you're new around here and you love the Flames, make sure you subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the latest news, updates, reports, and rumors revolving around your Calgary Flames. We would love to welcome you to the Flames Digest family. And where does it all start? Well, it starts with how it's over. Some people will say it's not over until we're mathematically eliminated, and I'll get into that a little bit later in this video. But honestly, after how badly last night went and just the way in which the Flames lost, it seems like the whole season is kind of for nothing at this point. But in case you missed it, the Flames lost 4-3 in overtime to the Ducks. But they didn't just, kind of lose this game. It's not like they came back to earn a point or anything. They absolutely blew it. So this is the score sheet in the third period. So obviously the Flames looked like they were having a great third period. They went up 3-1 in the third with less than 5 minutes to go. Looked like we were going to get another win on this California road trip. Wolfie would continue his dominance against his home state. But no, the Flames gave up 2 goals in 8 seconds, about a minute after they scored their third goal. Absolutely blow it. The Ducks have a comeback and then win in overtime. It was honestly just the worst case scenario that could have possibly happened. So I think that's why Flames fans are even more upset. They had the chance to win this game. They obviously, got some scoring, as you can see there, from Sharangovich and Coronato. If we quickly get into the box score here, I'll go with the box score first. Yeah, we got into the box score. Backlund also got a goal in this one. Good to see him get on the score sheet, a goal and an assist in this one. Coronato and Sharangovich also getting goals. Hanley got a couple of helpers, which is great. Pickles, Weegs, and Bees are all picking up 1 apple each as well. Dustin Wolf, I hate to say it, statistically, not one of his best games. Obviously, giving up 4 goals on 23 shots isn't good at all. Would I say that, it's obviously all his fault? No, of course not. I never say that. Most people would never say that about your goalie unless they really absolutely mess it up. But it is a bad stat line. Could he have made a save or two? Maybe. And it just is unfortunate. And like I said, it's the way in which the Flames lost this game. It wasn't just that they, picked up the Daryl Sutter point and earned it. No, they should have had 2 points and only got 1 out of this. And if you take a look here, they got shots. 39 shots on goal. I mean, hats off, obviously, to the Ducks goalie on that one. But still, the fact that the Ducks won this game isn't great. The faceoffs, hey, we actually had more face-off wins. That's pretty rare. What a dub. We must have won the game then. Here's where the 2 biggest problems are. The first one for me that was super noticeable was the lack of hits. The Flames threw 8 official hits last night against the Ducks, which is not good enough for a team that wants to make the playoffs, especially a team that prides themselves on their aggression, their fight, their ability to just be full energy. 8 hits total. I was not impressed, but the big thing here, obviously, is the power plays. 0-4-6. And I'll have a couple other things to say about the power play later in this video, but there's maybe a certain person who could have been in the Flames lineup that maybe would have been able to help out the power play. At least do no worse than 0-6. But seriously, 0-6 in essentially a do-or-die game is just not good enough. That's another way that, to me, it just kind of seems like it's over. And it wasn't just our game. Obviously, there were out-of-town scoreboards that really didn't go our way either. Minnesota, they have the craziest game of the season against the San Jose Sharks. Apparently, all they needed to kickstart their offense big time was Eriksson Ek and Kaprizov to be back. Oh, who would have thought that? But the manner in which they did it, I think those 2 combined for 6 goals. Eriksson Ek had 4 goals in this game. Kaprizov got a couple. They pick up the 2 points, a big win over San Jose. San Jose almost did us a favor, but couldn't. The other game, we're trying to catch both these teams, the Blues and Oilers. And, had the Blues won this game, it would have seemed a lot more realistic to catch up with the Oilers. Now it doesn't seem very realistic to catch up with any of them. I think we're more likely to catch up with St. Louis now than anyone else after a 4-3 win for Edmonton. But Edmonton obviously just got McDavid back. Like I said, the Wild got their stars back. The Blues have cooled off a little bit, but are still obviously a hot team. They're playing really good teams now, but still, I guess we could maybe catch the Blues, but to me, it just does kind of seem over. If we go to the standings now, We're 5 points back of the Blues and the Wild. We have 2 games in hand on St. Louis and 1 game in hand on Minnesota, but we only have 4 games left. We can technically still catch the Oilers. The Oilers would have to lose every single game in regulation, and we would have to win every single game. So they're essentially in the playoffs at this point. Again, it's possible, but are we kidding ourselves if we keep the hope up? I usually try and stay super positive and everything, but just after the way in which we lost last night, some of the coaching decisions, not only last night, but throughout this kind of stretch here, this do or die stretch, it just kind of seems over to me. And call me a negative Nancy, but man, it's just super, super disappointing. If we get into the money puck odds here, the Flames have just a sliver of that first pie left, less than 10%, which, I mean, to be fair, is higher than I thought it would be. It's funny now not seeing Vancouver or Utah on there. We're kind of the only team left that has a chance, really, but Edmonton, 99.99% chance. It would take an absolute miracle for us to catch them. It would be hilarious if that does happen. Obviously, St. Louis almost at 95%, and Minnesota now more than St. Louis. So like I said, if there's one team that's going to gack it, it has to be St. Louis. But at this point, I'm less and less hopeful, and it honestly is too bad. And since it's gone so badly, does that mean that changes are coming? I know I kind of talked about it in the intro, but a lot of fans are upset with Ryan Huska right now, and it's funny. This was a few comments off that post on Instagram that showed the final score, and it's so true. Look at all of these. So Abton said, if we only had a generational defenseman that put up over 100 points, ... Maybe could have helped in this game. Xmas said, you really can't trust a kid who put up 100 plus points to play in a game like this? Questioning it. Why couldn't you? Another one, Rajveer here. He said, Flames were 0 for 6 on the power play. Surely Zane Parekh was playing. Surely he was. And Hockey Analysis, they said, but we can't play Parekh. Our defense is too good. They gave up 4 goals to Anaheim, and Anaheim absolutely stinks this year. So a lot of people are frustrated with the main decision here being, why the heck was Parekh? What a rhyme there. Why the heck was Parekh not in the lineup for this? I mean, the worst that could have happened was obviously he goes in this game and doesn't help out the power play that much. But unfortunately, that just is how this game did end up going and the decision that was made to not play him. Will we see him now that playoffs are even further out of reach? Maybe. So I guess there are some positives, but still not great. Yegor Sharangovich replaced Breadman, one of my favorite Twitter accounts, hates Huska apparently. So he said, Conroy, please fire this man. Of course, talking about Huska. He followed up with saying Sutter gave up when he used Nick Ritchie in the shootout. Looks like Huska gave up when he didn't play Parekh. That is honestly a fireable moment like Sutter 2 years ago. And there's some validity to that. He also said Sutter also didn't play Coronato when he had the chance, as well down the stretch when the Flames tried and failed to make the playoffs, obviously a couple seasons ago. Huska honestly should be fired because he is becoming like Sutter. There's a bit more to that rant on Twitter. Feel free to go check it out, but it is pretty crazy. It seems like a lot of fans obviously are not on Team Huska anymore. I don't know if that's fair or not. You know, he kind of got this team to a place no one expected them to be. I know when it comes down to this point, it seems like an easy person to blame is the coach. He becomes the scapegoat, but think of how far he got us. I don't fully know if it's Huska. I know there's better coaches out there. I have no hate towards him, but it is true, and I understand why people are upset. You know, MacKenzie Weegar is one of them. He was asked a few questions after this game, and one question he was asked was, you know, he just talked about last night's overtime setback in Anaheim, as the Flames social media team decided to say. All he said was disappointing. And boy, was it ever. I know it was disappointing for the players, but it was also tremendously disappointing for the fans. And this is one last thing. I know this video is called It's Over. People are mixed if you go to the Flames Reddit. So DC Mort here, he said, it's not over until I see that E next to our names. Blues lost in regulation. They've got 2 games left while we still have 4 games. I know our games are against tough teams, but it's not over until I see either an X or an E next to our names. And again, as you can see, there are a few comments there. A lot of people upvoted it, so they agree, but it just kind of seems like we're kidding ourselves if you get too much hope into this. I mean, the expectation was that we were never going to make the playoffs, and it seems like that's the case now. Montreal will get our pick, which isn't great, but at least the more we win, hopefully the higher or the lower that pick will be, I guess, for Montreal later in the first round. But still, overall, quite disappointing right now, and I totally understand why Flames fans are quite upset, especially at Huska. Hopefully we'll see Perek soon and the coaching decisions improve, but again, we'll just have to wait and see, of course. Maybe it'll happen once we do officially have that E next to our names. Now let's get into the comment of the day to wrap up this video here. It comes from yesterday's video. There honestly weren't too many comments to choose from. You guys got a comment, or else what's going on here? Kaylin Clint, good old regular here. They said, we lose tonight. We're out. We lose to the Wild. We're out. Kind of true. We're not officially, but it seems that way. We lose one game and we are out. Wow, that versus Blues back-to-back games coming back to bite Coach Huska right in the nuts. And it is true. That back-to-back against St. Louis really did come back to essentially bite us, and it doesn't look great, especially, I guess, for Huska now that he can be the scapegoat. Or that Backlund breakaway versus the Vegas Knights, that 1 point. True, that would have been just essential to get the extra there. He also said, Captain Bax is a mediocre captain. If I was Conroy, I'd traded Backlund for a 6th rounder. Now, that's a little harsh to our cap. I know he's not exactly had the best years, and it's true. We're not kidding ourselves when we say this is his last contract in the NHL, or at least certainly with the Flames. In no way am I discrediting what Backlund has done for this organization, the amazing human he is. But it is true. It's just not quite the same level as some other captains are. I'm sure he's a great guy, great in the dressing room, but sometimes you expect more from your captain. He did a little bit against Anaheim, obviously, yesterday, but essentially it just wasn't enough in the end. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe, like what you saw here today, and have a wonderful rest of your day.